I'll go with India's original startup, right? Infosys. It's no longer a startup now, but 1980s, license Raj, poverty, unemployment, bureaucracy, you call what not. And then there is this small group of techies who come out and they say they show the world what India can do in technology, right?
We are in a B2B business selling to large enterprises. I'm not a big believer of branding and marketing. So that's why this is one of the first podcasts we're doing after 13 years of working together. And paradoxically, this is a marketing event. We've been thinking about bringing investors, potentially going IPO down the road. And that will allow us to some inorganic growth and more bold investments. And one of the trigger points was we were working with a startup and they were giving us almost 35-40% of business.
From instead of running one model once a week, you're running a million models every hour. That's again a huge step change in terms of technology. And some of these you need to be able to. There are signals all around, right? When we speak to the customers, the generative side of the AI became popular. It made our life a lot more easier. Right. So now customers are convinced that there is value. Of course, sometimes there's always the hype, etc. Cut that out. For about 2 years, we were experimenting, building small products, etc. And suddenly, Chat GPT came, and of course, the exact product that we were building became obsolete. But the tech team that we built could just pivot overnight and then piggyback on the back of all these the technological advances that have happened.
In today's episode, we join Mahesh Kumar and Pradeep Gulipalli, co-founders of the data and AI company Tiger Analytics. I'd like to share that this is the first podcast that they're doing with the world, so it's very special for us and for them. At an ARR of around $300 million, Tiger Analytics is developing advanced data analytics and AI solutions to drive business insights and decision making. Join us as we discuss the capabilities of AI, navigating multi-continent teams, and the potential for India in this fast-growing field that's come up. Welcome to the podcast, Mahesh and Pradeep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aviral.
So we'll start with something fun, and we have rapid-fire questions for you. So both of you can answer, or one of you can answer. It depends on context. If you could be a professional in any other field unrelated to what you do today, what would it be?
So, okay, let me start. It'll be in the public sector, public service sector. I've been always fascinated by public sector, be it in the form of administration, advisory, or even sometimes active politics. Because the reason is the scale of impact you can do.
Right.
You can touch millions of people, and any decision, any policy, any active work you do has much larger scale of impact. That has always been fascinating to me.
And having thought so much about scale and impact, I think I would rather be a mountaineer. Find solitude in the mountains, and when you're at the mercy of the mountains, you appreciate life much better, right? So that's what I would pick.
Mm-hmm. Scale and impact of different dimensions.
Yeah.
What's the best trait about your co-founder? So
Mahesh, I think his ability to empathize with such a wide range of situations, such a wide range of topics, while still not losing focus on end outcome, right? So that's what I think anyone of us in the company would look for in our CEO, and that's what he brings to the table. Just put any situation in front of him, it will not be a stranger. Right? He can completely be in your shoes and think from your angle. At the same time, then still saying, hey, how can we still be connected to the end goal while navigating through the situation, right? So empathy will be the biggest thing I would pick about Mahesh.
Good to hear that, Pradeep.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I see the trait that I most admire about Pradeep is his ability to connect with people. He's a truly team leader, and we take a lot of pride in our culture, and that's his brainchild to inculcate a culture like that. So that's his best trait.
That's awesome. I think both of you spoke about connection of different ways, and that I think that's very important in scaling a company. Um, what's the last book that impacted you deeply, or a book that impacted you deeply?
Yeah. So I'm not a lot of book reader. Don't get much time. But one book that not recently, but some time back, which I deeply connected with, is the autobiography of Mahatma Gandhi, the
Okay,
story of his experiments with truth. So a lot of learning lessons in that book.
very interesting.
For me, it would be the Emperor of All Maladies,
Hmm.
by Siddharth Mukherjee, right? Just unbelievable story of what it takes to even try to attempt to find a cure for something like cancer. The
Hmm.
amount of the kind of people, the kind of the imagination, the failures, and just the breadth of people from scientists to politicians that need to come together to make an impact at that scale. It's mind blowing, and it leaves you with a lot of hope that big problems can be tackled if people put their mind to it.
Amazing. So it's a fascinating book.
Yeah, two good ones. So moving on to the business section, what's a startup that you admire?
I'll go with India's original startup, right? Infosys. It's no longer
Hmm.
a startup now, but
Yes, but
think of it, right? 1980s, license Raj, poverty, unemployment, bureaucracy, you call what not. And then there is this small group of techies who come out and they say they show the world what India can do in technology, right? So it's still just just thinking about what they have gone through to build this colossus gives me goosebumps. Not today we take that for granted, but what that group went through to build this out is absolutely amazing, right? So that would be my all-time favorite.
For me, and again, not a startup anymore, but I'm impressed by the journey of Uber.
Over. Hmm.
How they transformed the traditional taxi business into platform and created so much of large scale of self-employment, and they have to and scale globally. A lot of countries they have presence in. It's not easy to just turn on an app, and they have to go through a lot of administrative bureaucratic process to do that and make it profitable. So that's an impressive journey. Uh,
Amazing. Great choices. What's your favorite hiring question? And I think you're very people first, so I'm sure we'll have some interesting questions here.
my question in my interviews, I actually don't go into technical or those discussions. And most of my hiring is leadership hiring. So the one topic I dwell into is finding common connections. Uh, so that helps me to understand, and then I often go back and talk to those common connections to get the referrals. My style, rather than interviewing the candidate, if I can interview those other people who the candidates work with, that got more insights.
From my side, I always get interesting answers when I ask them. If not Tiger, what company are you looking to join? Would you like to join, and why? It gives a very different perspective as to because all you get people can understand the answer when you ask, "Hey, why join us?" But you say, "What other thing are you looking for, and why?" It just no one's expecting that, and always interesting answers come out, and that something leads to others, right? As you converse about this topic.
And it's good competitive research also, I guess.
uh, what's one truth that few people agree with you on?
So when I realized that when someone is in a position of influence, power, authority, and to a certain degree in our own organization, both of us are, and I can draw parallels to whether you take other companies, governments, and so on. Many times people believe that, hey, it's a leader, the leader can make anything happen if they want. Why is this change not happening like instantly? It's a pain point. And many people believe that, hey, yeah, people in power of in position of authority can just make that happen. But nothing changes overnight, right? And it takes, for any meaningful change to happen, it takes significant effort, the patience, perseverance needed. You know, the from the leader to everyone who is part of that needs to embrace that journey, and then change happens gradually, right? It's it sometimes people find it hard to accept that, hey, it's someone who can actually make things change happen. Hey, you have the power in your hands, why can't you just pass a diktat and make it happen? Things don't work that way. And like, I've been on the other side when I've said, hey, why can't the CM make this change, or the PM make this change, right? It's just they have the power. But then, in a very small way, when I find myself in such a situation, I realize, hey, it takes the whole population to come together. So nothing changes overnight. All of us know that, but now I've seen it play out on the ground.
Mhm. So for me, it's not truth, but more like opinion, which I feel a lot of people don't agree with me on, is so we are in a B2B business selling to large enterprises. I'm not a big believer of branding and marketing. So that's why this is one of the first podcasts we're doing after 13 years of working together. And paradoxically, this is a marketing event. And I'm not a big believer of that. Whereas, if I ask, uh, survey all my leadership team, they'll all disagree with me. So, um, our style has been directly engaging with the customers as opposed to broad-based marketing.
Mm.
So that's one opinion I think most people don't agree with me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially nowadays when it's so easy to just put stuff up on social media, right? I mean,
Yeah,
focusing on your customers.
yeah,
correct. And I think for B2B enterprise, maybe it's not that useful too,
yeah.
possibly.
The kind of social media. I think I don't think I've ever posted anything on social media for business purpose. For that
Mm.
reason, that who's going to read? My customer not going to read it.
Mahesh, you have a very interesting story before you started Tag Analytics. You were actually a professor uh, at a B school. Uh, what was the journey like till then, and then what triggered the change in career?
So first of all, I come from a business family, so I've always been interested in business. I say no, maybe I was an outlier. I have more than 30 first cousin, and everyone's doing business. I was the only one who was studying and studying too much to become a faculty. So, but I was always, inclined towards business, applying whatever my learning into practical situations. And fortunately, around the same time, which is 2010, 11, 12 time period, this field was very early stage of picking up. And I did few consulting projects. Those consulting projects felt more interesting, more impactful. There's some looks like something is possible there. Around the same time, we met with Pradeep, and then this all started. So that was mainly
Understand.
the trigger point. Yeah,
And what was the early idea like?
early idea was uh, just the fact that the large enterprises, they have lots of data, and they lack the expertise of using mathematical models, statistical models. Back then there was no AI. Computing power was limited, using traditional tools like MATLAB, SAS, and all, how to use them to make real business decisions using data and modeling. So that was the idea, and it seemed like initially a bit academic. How would you use all these regression models, time series models to make business decisions, which are typically done by human beings, right? So we implemented a few clients, and they were actually able to use it, and they were willing to pay for it. So that was the initial learning eye opener, and then say we can scale it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And you're not a big fan of social media, but you and Pradeep met on LinkedIn. How did that happen? What should entrepreneurs look for when they're looking for co-founders? Any learnings from that?
Yes, I'll share my thought in here, Pradeep. Initially, so that's interesting. So I see a lot of founders, co-founders, they have known each other before. Even Google founders, they've known each other. They were the classmates, uh, co-workers. They were friends before being co-founders, right? In our case, we became friends after founding the company. So what one generally I advise that give people, it's great if you have great friends who can be co-founders, smart people. You go find companies with them, but don't constrain yourself with the people you know. You can make friends after you co-found the company, and that may be a better way, more objective way. You have bigger search space to find co-founders that way. So we made through. So initially, we were looking for because I was based in the US and we were looking for co-founder in India. Because India is a large component of this business. So through LinkedIn, we connected, we spoke, and felt like there's a chemistry. So we got started that way.
Amazing. Pradeep, what's your view if you have to add?
No, absolutely. And if you look at our leadership team today, right, to just add to what Mahesh said, there are several people as part of our leadership who are people we know. Right, who would be typically you would think the classic co-founders. Right, hey, we are batchmates, we were colleagues, and you'd see our extended leadership is a lot of those kind of people, right? Who would be natural if you're starting up something, those would be the people who would come to mind first. So it's not one or the other, one works better or the other that way. So it's for us, it's just we Mahesh and I did not know each other before, but then the network of the leadership team that we built post that, there's at least half of them are people who we have known in our past lives. Like everyone knows no right or wrong answers, but yeah, both have worked for us.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. There's a big belief that co-founders should know each other before. Mahesh, like you were alluding to as well. In fact, I'm a startup investor. A lot of VCs look at shared history as a proxy for chemistry. Did this lack of shared history come in the way for you? How do you resolve conflicts? Any thinking there? What's your thought on not having the shared history before you started?
I think from my side, I would say shared lack of shared history helped in many ways, so that we would not worry too much about each other's biases, and both of us would be focused on the problem, right? So if there is a disagreement in the problem, right, how to go about it, then there's no other baggage we are carrying, right? Hey, why what's on? We just say focus on the problem, agree, disagree, move on, next problem. Right. So at least during the initial times, it was there were no such things of hey, we thought about this all this planning, and now you're thinking otherwise. There was none of that. We could just focus on the problem. So it worked well for us. And over a period of time, we got to learn the true business personas of ourselves as to how we think, instead of coming in with certain expectations and so on. So that worked out quite well for me, working with Mahesh.
Yeah, I would say first of all, in conflict, I don't recall we had conflicts. Ever. It, that's very surprising. Whenever I tell people, we don't have conflict. Maybe we are kind of personality. We don't create conflicts with anybody. Even yeah. So even leadership, we have very little conflicts. But between Pradeep and I don't remember any single instance where we had meaningful disagreement. And I think the one of the things that we have found each other's strengths and focus areas, interest and focus areas, which tend to be complementary. Uh, so there are not less room for conflict. If you are working on the same part of the problem, we work on the same problem but different parts of the same problem. Uh, and we respect each other's strengths and weaknesses also. So we don't interfere, mutual respect for, if Pradeep in his area, he says, no, this is the right thing, we say, okay, fine, this is right. No? So that I think helps.
That's an interesting takeaway. So you've divided responsibilities in such a way that room for conflict is also limited, which is interesting.
So, so moving on to your journey, can you tell us about the early days? How did you get started? Mahesh, you mentioned that you'd, kind of dabbled in the space, done some consulting projects, felt like it could scale. How did you guys go from there? And simultaneously, you met on LinkedIn. Can you walk us through the whole story? How did you start up?
So to add more details, so early days was, um, so there were no, as expected, enough challenges with it, but fortunately we were able to keep finding businesses along the way. I would not call it major challenges, but there were its own. We had our own share of growth challenges. So in the early days, finding customers, so we were smart enough to figure out, okay, let's go after smaller customers, not
So, who
necessarily
was your first customer? The
first few
first
customers
customer.
were startups,
Okay.
startups, which were our very first customer was, we met with the CEO. He said, okay, let's get started tomorrow, right? So he liked the idea. So let's get started tomorrow. So that's how it started, basically. So
Okay.
whereas if you go to today, our largest customer is PepsiCo. It takes 1 year, 2 year, or long sales cycle, So you don't have the patience and you don't have the credentials to go to those large customers. It took us almost 3-4 years before we could find our first enterprise customer. Today we have 95% business is enterprise, right? So it took us, so early days we worked with startups, and startups with its own challenges. They have smaller budgets, smaller funding, very demanding. We took that in right stride. Um, and on the team side also, finding team members to trust us, have confidence in joining, living there. We, of course, we wanted the top talent. We didn't want to go compromise the quality of talent. So you go after top talent and say, we have big dreams, join us. The low salary, big dreams, low salary, and join us. So those were challenges. But as you know, we were every year, every single quarter, we were able to make incremental progress till we got to the point where we started taking bolder steps. So let's go after enterprise customers. Let's build a solid leadership team. Um, so it took some, I would say, initial 3-4 years were like that, and we were good in managing our finances, so we could stay bootstrapped. That's also was challenge. Every now and then, we'll run into capital challenges, so we'll get tempted to, okay, should we explore funding outside, which is also not easy, distraction. So those were the initial day challenges. Sometimes hard to even remember what were those challenges is now.
And Pradeep, what was your role in the early days? How did you guys split up responsibilities?
Yeah, and so it was more of there's a build and there's one of which is sell, right? If I were to say the rough split was like that. Mahesh was in the market, I know a lot of figuring out. Almost like the product market fit and who do we sell to, what's the message, what's the value prop, all of that. And I would be a lot more focused on what should the build be and how do we build it right, and build will be both the product itself and the people who are building the product, right, the whole that side of the company. That's what we did. So especially the initial startups that we worked with. So think of these were a lot people, folks in the extended network. These are Bay Area startups, people trying to build products. One thing that was quite scarce in those days was still the machine learning, the what you call the AI side of things, and that was our that is all we knew at that time. So we would go build those components while the startups are building the full blown engines, the full blown. If we might build the engine, they might bring the whole rocket, right? That way. So that was that, but that allowed us to build a very strong tech foundation. That the tech teams that we built, And that became the DNA of the company, to be able to attract, groom that kind of talent. And over a period of time, we build that muscle, not just build that engine, but the whole car or the whole rocket ship, right? For our, and that's what when we work with enterprises, that's what they say. It's not about, hey, you come solve a technical problem. It's like, hey, how are you helping me transform my business or change a certain business outcome? So that requires not just a small AI piece, but also the whole thing of from start to finish. What's the entire machinery needed to make a change in an enterprise? So the journey was about building from components to the whole system.
And now talking about your clients, I mean, I know you guys, started one at a time and gradually added clients, but right now you service clients across quite a few industries. Um, how challenging is it, or is it quite similar because you guys are focused on a specific problem?
Similar in some ways, different in others. One, the only thing that we do is data and AI, right? So we don't do a whole lot of other service lines, as you might see in larger organizations. So from a technology perspective, it is still reasonably focused, though that's exploding. But you would need to have a very good understanding of various industries to be able to go and build a solution for that industry, right, to work with them. So, for example, when you work with, let's say, a consumer goods player versus when you work with a bank, while the core technology could be, there could be enough similarities, but the problem statement they're solving, the way you engage with them, the language that they use, the cycle time, speed which they move, all of these are very, very different. So we need to. So what we have done over time is build out these teams which understand business also quite well, can engage with the customers in the right way. While there is a core tech team which can be by and large flexible across industries. So how do you mix and match? How do you build these teams that can deliver to the promise we make to our clients? That's the biggest value add that in a way we bring to the table.
Yeah, one more comment to add here. So, as Pradeep mentioned early on, we used to build one component, one focus component engine, and our clients would be responsible for building the entire car, engine behind. But now, at the scale we operate right now, we have many clients in across these industries where we are building the end-to-end solution for them, uh, from data ingestion to building those models to productionizing them and giving in the hands of the business. You know? So that requires, when you build end-to-end, that requires a higher degree of domain knowledge, industry knowledge, and also sometimes we're solving multiple problems for the same client, and they are interconnected. So then again, you need to have the understanding of interconnection of how these problems are interconnected. The business domain knowledge is needed. So I would say that we could work across these industry problems without worrying about domain knowledge earlier, because we were solving point problem which were common across for homogeneous problems. But now we're solving end-to-end problems, multiple problems with the same client, and without having industry knowledge becomes inefficient. And we would have decided. So we have been actively working on it for the past few years and building the industry competency. It's not easy. If you're working in one industry, easier. Work across multiple industries, and that's an active area of investment for us, to build industry competencies so that we can be more valuable to our customers.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And talking about your scale, I mean, you're now at 300 million ARR. You plan to, I believe, get to a billion in the next 5 years. You've gotten here with a step change, right? You started with startups and then servicing enterprises and doing from a component to servicing it end to end. What is the next kind of step change to get you to the next step? What are kind of the things that you're looking for?
So there, I think, first of all, one is one should not undermine the value of these incremental improvements, the power of compounding.
Yes.
So that's something we strongly believe in and has been working for us. But at the same time, in the past also we have made some step changes to get to next orbit, next phase, and that may require. So here again, we have number of things we are experimenting as we speak. Uh, some of them could be so things like, as I mentioned earlier, bringing strong domain knowledge, then being a pure technology company. So we know that, and the market knows that we are very strong in technology, AI technology, data technologies, and all. But if you bring the same strength of the business domain knowledge, it becomes a very powerful combination. Can double our business over the next 2 years, right? Because we'll be more valuable, and more value provided, customers will give us more business. That's one step change will be there. We call it step change or gradual change, but that eventually we have to get there. The other things are, we are also looking for more and more larger transformation programs, and they can then each program could be tens of $1 million. So today our programs tend to be significantly smaller than them each program. So that can also significantly increase the revenue per client. Other things are, we have been bootstrapped so far, and that has limited our ability to make large step changes. We have been thinking about bringing investors, potentially going IPO down the road, and that will allow us to some inorganic growth and more bold investments for a faster growth path.
So in a way, if I were to use a more generic framework, so there are certain experiments that need to go on the product side, right, or the offering side, saying, hey, what could be the next big offering in the coming years? And there's always experimentation going on, right, with all the new tech coming, new business situations coming up. So today, at least, we will be working on maybe 20 different small things being incubated, and probably maybe a third of them will be the flagship offerings 2 years down the line. So there is this that always goes on, right? That part of things. Same way on the go-to-market side, there's always we think of what is going to be that growth engine. What are going to be those channels? How are we going to reach out to those folk, right, to the right audience? Again, there are at least a dozen different approaches being tried out, apart from what the norm is. And we know that 2 years later, two, three of them would be really successful channels for us to take these to the market. So, so foundationally, if these are not happening, it always gives us jitters to say that, hey, are we stagnating? Right, and some of these will help in incremental changes. Some of them will be, help us do step changes, and of course, right, the other things, there'll always be things like service line expansion, or you could start to target certain other sectors, or inorganic growth, acquire. All of these are come at a certain stage in the journey. Maybe we are already there, but foundationally over the years, that's how we've been thinking of. Go to market, are we innovating? What are the new things coming up? And on building the offering itself, what are the innovations that are happening?
I understand. Did one of these big step changes happen in a very challenging phase of the company? And is there one time frame in your company's history which you would say is the most challenging?
I would say both challenging as well as big step change was fairly early on when we moved from small clients to large enterprises. And one of the trigger points was we were working with a startup, and they were giving us almost 35-40% of business. They went out of business overnight. So Friday, I have a meeting with them, and they say, "Oh, we are shutting down the shop tomorrow," right? So that was a awakening call that no, okay, we can't rely on the startups as a sustained business model. And also, so there was a challenging phase for next at least 4 or 5 months to manage our cash flow when you lose a third of a business overnight. And that also triggered us to, okay, let's move to large enterprises. There was a big change, and then it definitely helped us. That kind of the pain of that situation helped us to come out of in a more successful manner. So there was one change. The other step change happened. I don't know challenges, but we will talk more because more about the product part of it. We were initially predominantly a data science company, and we realized the data science is the core part of the AI, but there's a lot of engineering around it to make it happen. And that was, I would say, about 5 6 years ago. We thought actively about, and it came from number of clients that we were not able to service them fully on their needs. So we said, "Okay, let's build the engineering skills." And today, half our business, or maybe slightly more than half our business, is engineering. Engineering not standalone, which is build, helping the data science, the maths, and all to function in the client. So that was a big step change. And Pradeep was the kind of mainly orchestrating that change. So he can talk about what if there are challenges in doing that.
Yeah, it's and there were things like that expansion on this is like a technology expansion, right? So it could be more on orchestrating, managing huge, very large scale data which feeds into these AI models, and these two are very different skills. And then a similar step change was about how do you scale this AI? Like when organizations were in the early days, they would do small POCs. There'd be small business units. Okay, can it give me the right insights? I can make decisions. From there, suddenly you want to put AI in on the edge on everyone's mobile. Each customer is a unique segment. Everything needs to be personalized to the customer. From instead of running one model once a week, you're running a million models every hour. That's again a huge step change in terms of technology. And some of these you need to be able to. There are signals all around, right? When we speak to the customers, you have to sometimes say, hey, okay, I'll commit to it to building this because these capabilities today, first of all, don't exist in the market many times when you are at that stage. It's a new expertise and all of that. People are very scarce who can do that. So a lot of these need to be built with experimentation, right? And you'll commit to investing internally that kind of a mind space. And for a startup, resources are always scarce, right? So you have to commit to those and build these out. I think these are two big, from a technology perspective, bets that paid off for us. So that hey, when you're building the engines, there is whole upstream data that feeds into AI, and that's a massive engineering work that needs to be done. And second, once these engines are built, how do you scale them so that it reaches the impact that you see? That's again a huge consumption related engineering capabilities. I think from a company perspective, these were two technological step changes that helped us quite a bit.
That makes a lot of sense. And talking about step changes, I have to ask, what about Gen AI? How has that the whole revolution impacted your trajectory, and how does it change your roadmap?
That's it's certainly a shot in the arm, right? So we were many times it was us going, proactively selling about, hey, this is what AI can do, and no, let's experiment this, etc. And then the whole, when the generative side of the AI became popular, it made our life a lot more easier. Right. So now customers are convinced that there is value. Of course, sometimes there's always the hype, etc. Cut that out. But net overall, it's been great for certain kinds of problem statements which were earlier unsolvable. Now all of them become solvable. And who are the people who come to solve it? We are there in the pole position, right? To say, hey, can you, can we try build some solutions around this, etc. This is a space in we were incubating before before Chat GPT was launched. For about 2 years, we were experimenting, building small products, etc. And suddenly, Chat GPT came, and of course, the exact product that we were building became obsolete. But the whole the tech team that we built could just pivot overnight, and then we could piggyback on the back of all these the technological advances that have happened. So now we have a very strong foundational generative AI expertise that helps us build grounds up several solutions. Right. So what happens? You'll see several of in many situations. Today, there are a new set of generative AI models get launched, and there are a bunch of these startups who are trying to do certain things can overnight vanish, right? Hey, suddenly because someone else is solving the problem. So, but the way we have approached all these things before, even before was, all these are different tools which are which need to solve certain business problems, right? So, and when you are foundationally thinking of certain problems, you'll think of all these as tools, right? Say, today there is whatever, there are like five, six different the big players who are coming up with all these generative AI models, all multimodal and all that. All these are components to solve an end problem, and there are 2 dozen other things that need to come together to build the end solution. Um, so what this whole generative AI buzz has done is suddenly all these problems which were quite tough to solve earlier now become solvable. And just it's not just the generative AI piece that can solve the entire problem. There are a whole set of other things that need to come together, and we have that machinery, right? So puts us in a very good spot. Lot of opportunities coming our way because of that. Overall, we have to be careful not to not to get carried away by the hype and just try to solve. You use the hammer to hit every nail. But if you are smart about that, then it's very good opportunities for enterprises as well to tackle some of these wicked problems.
Yeah, so generative AI is, well, in the last 2 years, but the whole AI also, I think post COVID, I would say roughly the timeline in the last 4 years, there's been a lot of talks about AI, broadly AI. No, I think it definitely accelerated in the last 4 years, and it's also that I correlate timeline with in the last 4 years we have grown 10 times. We talk about 300 right now. 4 years ago we were 30 million. So this kind of and while we can take credit on a lot of good things we have done, but a lot of credit goes to the explosion of the AI. Broad. So that has definitely helped us create the demand, need, and also readiness from the customer side. The data is ready, technology is ready, mindset readiness, financially they are ready to commit investment in these areas. And that has definitely helped us to this kind of 10 times growth in 4 years is not easy. So we could achieve that because yeah, this whole AI growth explosion.
And I mean, talking about that in such a competitive, hyped and exciting industry, talent is always a challenge. So, I mean, first of all, how does Indian AI talent fare globally? And, what have you guys done to attract the best talent and retain the best talent?
I think from a talent perspective, if you take top of the line talent, um, top of the line talent in India is as good as anything you can get in the world. Right? I'm talking about that group. So that group is no different from the best of the best you pick anywhere. But once you start looking at averages, right, then differences start to show up. There is still a lot of enough ground to be covered from an Indian perspective. Um, so uh, this is a challenge. This is a real challenge for us, right? So one we're saying about 10x growth in the last 4 years or so, and how do you find the people for that? It's the same people everyone wants. It's not just we are seeing the impact of AI, the whole world is seeing impact of AI. So we will need to build talent, right? So that's the solution for us. And then, so for us, many times it becomes that, hey, what are the foundational components required in an individual that they can, they can transform themselves into a very meaningful, impactful, professional in the AI world? Or how do you break down the overall AI problem into components so that, hey, you don't need everything in one person, but can we get at least leading up to it, three people who are solving, shaking hands with each other to solve a certain problem? So that's how we've approached this to break down the problem. Then you can find good people with specializations in that, and it might take them a good 3 years or so to build the holistic picture, become well-rounded themselves. But can we break it down that way? So that's one approach. And second, just there's a lot of experimentation, the mindset of experimentation that we push, especially. So think of it, right? If someone says, what if you ask someone, what do you do? They say, hey, I'm a Java developer. Then it is, it's hard for someone with, say, I'm a Java developer kind of a mindset to really make use of what the possibilities the world of AI has to offer. We have to tinker with just, maybe like 30, 40 different kinds of technologies that are floating around at any given time. Something works, something not work. But hey, over a period of time, you develop that mindset of how do I engineer across all of these, right? So if you're able to build that culture of experimentation, uh, breaking down something, putting together these things, the core engineering things, that helps overall. Because if we are finding it hard to attract or not to identify talent, then it's a problem globally. So it's not like we are at a certain disadvantage or anything. And whenever you see a problem like this, then it means like some opportunity. There's a great opportunity. There's a no, we can make a move that can put us ahead of the market. So these are some of the things that we do, just to give you a flavor, right? The spirit of how we're trying to build the talent base.
No, that's quite helpful. And I mean, 10x growth, to put into perspective, you guys are a company with over 4,000 employees spread across countries. How do you maintain the culture across teams and make sure that everyone's still reading off the same playbook when you're that big?
Yeah, I don't know if it is. We should read off the same playbook. I think the playbook needs to evolve as we go along. Culture also will need to change, right? For example, when we are a 10 people organization, then the whole company will go out for a dinner, right? And the kind of what is acceptable at that stage will not work at this scale, right? So certain things need to change. So I think first of all is recognizing the fact that culture can evolve. We just have to ensure that it's evolving in the right direction, right? For the scale. That's it. There are some foundational things that we do as an organization to stay rooted. One very very non-negotiable thing that we have in the organization is respect, which is no matter how smart one person is or how egregious a mistake someone else has made, everyone needs to be treated with respect. Conversations have to be respectful. That one point itself solves a whole lot of people problems. And wherever people problems come up, we see that, hey, somewhere the concept of respect was missed out. And an adjacent thing that we look at on the client side is, are you thinking value? Which is whatever work that you are doing, is it delivering value to the client? You might be using the coolest of technology, you might have done the most innovative thing, but if it hasn't added value, whether in terms of efficiency, dollars, or visibility, something to the client side, whatever it could be, then it doesn't mean anything, right? All of it has gone is waste. So if you're able to balance these two things well as foundational elements, then no, by and large, for a company like us in the business we are in, where it's a lot of talent driven business, and we work with a lot of customers, interact with them day to day. If we balance these two well, it's held us in good stead. So these are things we don't forget. keep emphasizing, keep ensuring that we don't veer off the track on these two things. Thinking, respect for each other and value for our customers.
And then I think we don't. One thing we bring the culture of, it doesn't have to be every country or every geography or every level of people, every function organization has to have same playbook. We give them a lot of flexibility, freedom to function their own way. Say even you mentioned geography, multiple geographies. So the team in the US uh, has different, allows them to have different, way of working versus team in India. Again, people who are part of leadership team, people who are junior people. Uh, so it doesn't have to be same playbook. Uh, give them flexibility, but as long as what Pradeep mentioned, have mutual respect no matter what, right? We are all professionals, we are all humans, we have to treat it. And then at the end, we are here for doing business. So it has to make commercial sense, business value for us, business value for our clients. As long as those things are fundamental, beyond that, just figure out whatever works for you, your team. If some team want to go out for dinner every week to have team building, that's fine. Other teams want to work on Zoom, that's fine, right? Whatever works for you. So we also bring this philosophy of give them flexible freedom, and people figure out what works best for them.
Understand. And I think we have a view of 5 years, but if we had to look at it a little immediate term, what's the plan for the next 12 months for the company?
So 12 months, I think one thing is near term. So as I mentioned, we have grown very nicely last 4 years. But at the same time, in the last couple of years, the last year and a half, 2 years, things have been a bit slower growth. Slower growth, I mean, earlier we were growing 100% year over year. Now we are growing 25% year over year, which is underwhelming for us. So immediate next 12 months plan is to accelerate the growth. And partly because the slower growth was, there was a bit of market softness, uncertainty in economy. Plus, we were also adjusting to the sudden growth size. We grew suddenly, and then there were some internal processes, readjustment had to happen. So it took last 1.5 year, 2 years when it do building those stronger foundation. So from the market facing perspective, which is the area I focus on, the next 12 months is to have a more accelerated growth in the range of 35-40%. And the growth is exciting. Growth is necessary in our business because it's a constantly changing field. We are attracting top talent to feel excitement, to feel freshness. Otherwise, if you don't grow fast enough, then the company become a bit of stale. We're doing the same old thing. So that's one immediate thing in our mind over next 12 months.
From the capability build perspective, it's exactly the same problem that both of you highlighted. Saying, hey, you're working with so many different verticals, industries. How hard is it to spread across? That's exactly the focus over the next year and a half to make significant progress there. What are these very industry specific next level playbooks that are required, and how do people need to orient themselves? So there's a lot of that kind of both capability solution build work that is going on for specific industries that we are working on.
Understand. And to close out, and why we call this Founders Unfiltered, what's one piece of unfiltered advice or feedback you received in your journey that impacted you personally or professionally?
Yeah, sure. So I think there are parts along the journey, both whether it's for the organization or as an individual. There are parts when we tend to play it too safe, right? And you will have all the reasons to justify it, right? Why you want to play it safe. As an individual, it could be about, hey, I really like to do this kind of work. I've excelled at it. I'll continue to do it. Same holds for companies, right? Since they're the kind of customers we work with, or this is our expertise. But then, right, if you don't come out of that comfort zone, or if you don't come out of that harbor and not sail the rough seas, you'll never see that professional growth or the company doing that. So there have been certain hard hitting feedback that has come from from both very well meaning people, both to me as an individual and for us as a company, to say that, hey, you have to sometimes swing for the fences, and unless you leave some of the baggage, or what could be your strengths at one point, unless you leave some of those behind, and just venture into the rough seas, you'll not be able to build something much bigger. It will seem very counterintuitive at that time of saying, "Hey, play to your strengths," kind of an advice. But sometimes you have to leave behind your strengths and build new ones, because that's what is required to build something much bigger, right? So different flavors of this advice has helped us, at least me, quite a bit in terms of how to think about both myself, teams, parts of the organization, and such.
So one thing that one particular um, advice or incident that kind of comes to my mind is one of the very first customers, and I was personally working on the project. So it was some for a media agency. We're building these forecasting models, prediction models, and I was doing this doing the modeling work and using logistic regression, linear regression, then using, there's some bias there to do bias correction, then some heterogeneity, was all kinds of complicated things were there. It was complex problem, large scale problem. So I was building the model and then presented them, and of course it became big, huge piece of code. And I was showing it to the CTO there. And CTO is a very smart guy. He's a PhD from Stanford, smart guy. And so he said he was struggling to implement it and all, and try to understand. So one day he called me up and said, Mahesh, you've been working on this problem for 2 months. Can you make it simple so that we can understand it? Can you make it work so we can use it? And can you show business value so we can fund it? So then that advice, sorry, what he's talking, it's a complex problem. Then I went back. Next 2 days, I try to simplify, reduce, or remove all these, extra, all the bells and whistles I've added, simple linear regression, and see what works. And we got decent results. They could implement in next 1 week, and fortunately, the model worked. They could see some business value. So the learning from that was uh, keep it, simple. Any problem that you get, we have tendency. We are technology people. We have tendency to complicate it, So this is sometimes, people don't realize how hard it is to keep it simple, right? So keep it simple, make it work, and show business value. And that advice I got early on, and we have followed that philosophy as much as possible even today.
Amazing. And I think it's a great note to conclude our chat. I think we could learn so much about building a company, analytics, and AI. But thank you so much, Mahesh and Pradeep, for your time. I think we really learned a lot on how to build a sustainable long-term business, as well as building in the field that's probably the hottest today. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
No, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Aviral. Thanks, Mazin.